Hi, everybody. I'm really excited. I'm actually here today with Republican presidential, I guess, not nominee yet, but you're working on it, Matern. And he's in New Hampshire right now, and he's vying for the primary and going up some pretty heavy hitters. And so we're talking with him today just to kind of get a gist of what he's about and see if he's up for the challenge. And I think he might be. So, Matt, tell us a little bit about your platform, what you intend to do, and we'll dig into some of the dirty details here in a second.
I've been a litigator. I've also worked on environmental cases as well, and many other types of cases. So I know my way around the courthouse and the way around the legal system.
Yeah, I noticed in doing a little bit of research on you that you're a practicing attorney and you have a law firm. And how do you think that will transition into being a good leader for the country?
Well, obviously, our nation is one based upon laws. So having some understanding of how the legal system works is a good thing for any president to have. And 26 of our 44 presidents have been attorneys, so it's a classic training ground for the presidency is being a lawyer. So I've also been a small business person. I have run my own business for the last 27 years, and I currently have a firm. I have 24 attorneys working for me and approximately 50 employees total, and 3 offices around the state. So I know about running a business and meeting payroll, and so I'm an entrepreneur as well as being a lawyer.
That's amazing. And the way of thinking, how a lawyer thinks, that way of thinking can be very, very beneficial as well, I imagine. So another question I have for you is, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to vote for the current president, Mr. Trump, right? So, are there things that you agree with him on and obviously don't agree with him on? And how do you plan to get some of those people to kind of move over to your side?
Well, I primarily have many disagreements with him, and that's why I'm running against him. So
Gotcha.
start off the disagreements, which are that he has doubled the deficit in 3 years when he said that he was going to eliminate it in 8. So he's not on the right path there. I mean, that goes against the fiscal conservatism of the Republican Party. He's also somebody who is anti-environment. He said, they said climate change is a hoax. Well, 13 different federal agencies under his administration came up with a report in 2018 saying that climate change is real and it's going to cost the American economy hundreds of billions of dollars if we don't do anything about it. So he doesn't read the science, or he doesn't understand it, or he doesn't care. Pick one of the three. Either way, that's not good for the U.S. and it's not good for the Republican Party to be a party that's associated with an anti-scientific view of the world.
Right. And so those are some of the disagreements, and those obviously impact a lot of people. I mean, the deficit, we're paying taxes and taxes and taxes to try to knock that down. What are some of the things, maybe not agree with him personally on, but are there anything that you kind of agree with where the economy has gone, where the country has gone in the last 4 years to maybe help some of those people transition? Because I know some of those critics are going to be the people that already are in your party, but support him. Is there some ground
I'd say one area that he has made some moves on that I agree with is regarding China and confronting China on the trade policies. The problem is that I think he's had a wrong-headed approach to China, and he has not conducted an effective negotiation. He hasn't gotten a great trade deal. He's been banging on China for a few years, and he still doesn't have a good deal. And I think part of the problem is the construct of the deal that he wants to cut really isn't one that would be good for the United States anyway. One of the things that I have as a proposal is that we should be treating China and other countries and putting tariffs on them if they don't meet the same standards environmentally as U.S. companies. And the reasoning behind that is that it's an it is unfair competition to our companies if they are meeting the U.S. environmental standards and regulations and the costs that that requires, and these other countries and companies are not meeting those standards, so they can produce the goods more cheaply, and they flood our markets with cheap goods, putting our manufacturers out of business and our workers out of jobs. So we should hold those companies in China, India, and elsewhere to the same standards of environmental protection as companies in the U.S. It would be good for our workers, good for our companies, and good for our environment. And President Trump, because he doesn't care about the environment, he's not going to take that position. That is a fundamental difference that I have with President Trump, and it's an important one.
Well, and with your attorney background, you could write some of the legislation yourself.
Absolutely.
So, as doing some research on you and everything like that, I noticed that you are from California. So again, it's something I'd love for you to clear up for everybody. California is an obvious blue state, right? So why don't you clear up for everybody what makes you such a strong candidate coming out of there? Because there's going to be a lot of questions about that.
Well, I mean, California has its share of problems, there's no doubt. But we also have to look at the successes of California and see what those lessons are for the rest of the country. One of them is that environmental regulation does not mean that you can't have a strong economy, because California has some of the strongest environmental regulations, yet its economic growth over the last number of years had exceeded the national average. So that the lesson to be learned is that you can have strong environmental regulations and a strong economy. That's the truth, versus a Trump fallacy, which is that environmental regulations cause the economy to seize up and go into reverse. That's just not true. That's not the experience when you look at California, which is now the 5th largest economy in the world. So that's something that we should be considering. I think, as far as immigration policy, you look at back in 1994, Governor Pete Wilson had a very anti-immigrant message. He went from gaining 47% of the Latino vote in the prior election down to the next governor, Republican, running, got 14%. So that's a good possibility that President Trump is going to suffer the same consequence of his anti-immigrant rhetoric in Texas and in Arizona, California, Florida, and other states, Georgia, that have substantial immigrant populations. This divisiveness does not help the Republican Party. I mean, I think that you can have an immigration policy that requires people to have their first steps in the country legal ones, which I wholeheartedly agree with, but I don't think you need to engage in divisive rhetoric, because that doesn't help the political environment, and it poisons the immigrants who are here legally mind against the Republican Party.
So I'm going to give you a few minutes here to sort of riff on some things that you're passionate about as you near this, hopeful position here. So if you were to, let's do a hypothetical, if you were to make it in to the White House, or even just make the primary, what are some things about America, about the people, about, the state that you're from, the states that you've seen in your travels? What makes you passionate about serving the American people?
Well, I mean, I'm from the state of Illinois, and that's the land of Lincoln. So from a very young age, I was introduced to Lincoln and went down to see the places where he lived, which were close to where my mom grew up, and my mom's family lived next door to Lincoln. So I have a connection to that, and the truth and honesty of Lincoln were core values for me growing up as a Republican and growing up as, in the state of Illinois, that we were told those were important. And quite frankly, seeing the current administration disregard those core values kind of sickens me, because I think Lincoln would be rolling over in his grave having see the mendacity of the current occupant of this White House is not good for our country. And what makes me passionate is to serve the country in an honorable way, and to to bring economic growth to the middle class by my tax plan, which is to actually eliminate the income tax for anybody earning $50,000 or less, or any family earning $100,000 or less, which would spur economic growth and create tax fairness. And it also goes back to when the income tax was first created in 1913, there was a $4,000 exemption, which was equal to $101,000 in today's money. So the income tax, when it was first created, was not created to hit working class people and middle income people. It was designed to hit people who had already achieved a certain level of success. And we should go back to that model, because we need to have working Americans in better financial status, because many of them don't have any savings. We should encourage them to have savings and have investments and buy houses. That's going to be good for economic growth, and it's going to be good for our democracy.
Good. And so, what are some things that you're hearing while you're out on the campaign trail? What are people talking to you about? Give us some ground level.
I'm hearing a lot that a lot of people are happy that I'm challenging President Trump. They come up to me and say, "I'm happy that you're challenging him. I'm upset with what he's doing." So that's a common theme. Another common theme is that many fiscal conservatives in New Hampshire and around the country are upset with what he is doing, and they're happy with my emphasis on cutting the deficit, cutting the debt. So those are things that are near and dear to their hearts. I'm hearing from voters that they are happy with my environmental stance, that I'm for limiting carbon emissions so that we can have a healthier environment. So those are some of the things I'm hearing.
Well, it also seems like you're more right of center. Is that more accurate?
That's correct. I mean, I'm a bridge builder, so I want to build bridges between the right of center to the other side, so that we can solve our problems. I mean, I think 70% of our country is close to the center, and 15% on either side are the wings, and the wings are kind of controlling both parties. And I'd like to get it back to where the center is, dominating the political discourse and setting the policies, because that would be a better position for our country to be in if we could come up with solutions that were bipartisan in nature, because those are the ones that are most durable and probably the most pragmatic, and the ones that are actually going to, be able to be effectuated and come into law.
I think bipartisanship is something that's starting to be lost. It's really divided, as you said. So as a final question, and I'll let you get to your afternoon, because I know you got like two more events today, I think. Yeah, let me ask you this one last question. When or if elected, what would be your way of going in and helping to bring that partisanship back together?
Well, I think we would start with the people that are already doing it. There's a problem solver caucus, which has about 48 members in it, that are 24 Republicans and 24 Democrats. So we'd start with reaching out to those members and seeing if we could build on what they've been doing. And I would reach out to both sides of the aisle and see if we can come to some reasonable compromises on the biggest issues that face us, one of them being taxes for the middle class. And I think that given that 60% or more of the American electorate makes less than $100,000 a year, we'd have a fair amount of support from both Democrats and Republicans to cut these taxes and get a real groundswell of support on both sides of the aisle to give tax relief to the middle class. So those are some of the things that I would do right off the bat.
Sounds great. Well, good luck today. Safe travels.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And we'll give you some updates when this is put out live, and we'll be watching to see what happens with your campaign. Thank you very much.
Well, definitely have your viewers check us out on the web, Matern2020.com, and check out our Facebook page. And if they would like to, we've got some events on calendar, so check out that, and we'd love to get their support and earn their vote.
Definitely. Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the hard work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.